This podcast is part of the Big Heads Media Podcast Network. Go to bigheadsmedia.com for more great podcasts.
Hello, and welcome to Body Count, the podcast where we believe history doesn't repeat itself, it rhymes, and a proud member of the Big Heads Podcast Network. Now, our only rule when we choose a topic, someone, or as is usually the case, a lot of someone's died. We give you this series of events in narrative fashion, and by the end, correlate said story with current events. Now, I'm not PBS, Ken Burns, or Dan Carlin. However, if you want a Hoover X, just the facts, ma'am, history podcast, we're probably not going to be for you. But I'm telling you this now. There will be analysis and opinions. I'm not reading names and dates at you. So if you don't love that idea, don't let the door hit you in the ass on the way out. Now, my opinions are my own. Know that I hold all my co-hosts verbally hostage. Direct your hate at me, folks, where it belongs. It is also said that tragedy plus time equals comedy. So know that we giggle at some occasionally rough subject matter. If you didn't, if we didn't laugh, if you didn't laugh, we'd all be crying. And what's the fun in that? But we're warning you now to avoid offending anyone. Now, I'm your host, Jessica Manor, and I'm joined today by my co-host,
Bethany Skelton, everyone.
Oh my God, you took such an intro to that. Like,
I can't believe I let you finish that whole intro.
I can't believe we got through the intro without being ass clowns either. Oh, see, there we go. I've already messed up. What's the one thing we're trying to do, Bethany?
Stop using bad language. However, the ASS word is something that is on movies nowadays. For PG-13 movies. So you have to at least be 13 years or older listening to this podcast, and I think we're going to be just fine.
Oh, I don't know about that, because we're definitely going to drop the F-bomb before this is over.
Okay, well, I was trying to stay positive, okay, Jessica, especially since this is our take two.
Oh, God, is it, guys? Like, Microsoft F'd us in the A so hard. But we think we finally gotten the way that, minus the cicadas in the south, which you currently hear right now. I think we finally...
I don't hear them.
No,
and I have birds chirping. I figured you would say something about that, so clearly you don't hear that. So we're in the good.
I don't hear that either. So
we're in the good.
We're doing good. We're doing really well. Because the only way we can get it to work is outside. So I want you to know we are sitting in sweltering summer
100-degree weather
for this. Weather that shouldn't exist right now in the South. Thank you so much, global warming. We're sweating our ass off.
Yeah, it's like 91 right now, but technically it's supposed to feel like I think it's supposed to feel like oh God, I don't even know, like 100.
Well, because we're both where
feels like 99.
It's like 98% humidity where we're at.
Yeah, it feels like 99, and it's 6:47 p.m. On a Sunday. Okay, so
and
that's where we are,
and we're down to the wire. So know our editors hate us. So a big, massive thank you to @MassiveLateFee, because we've been effing with this for days. But
we blame Microsoft. Their update is not agreeing with our actual thing of it.
No, Microsoft hates us until right now. Literally, we managed to get it all together. The only thing I've heard in the background is the opening of the door. So, if you can't hear the cicadas?
No, I cannot hear those at all.
Good, that means it's not picking up on the recording. Let us hope. So,
heaven praise, please be the Lord. Sorry for that squeaky door.
I'm going to go ahead and tell you guys, like, Bethany and I have been in some Memorial Day celebrations, so I think
Amen.
we're both 3 sheets.
Oh my God. This is way better than the first recording, which I was super drugged up on Benadryl because my nose wouldn't quit running. I couldn't
Well,
stop.
we both were. I think I was also on NyQuil and God knows what else. And it was very low energy, like very low energy, guys.
And what did I tell you, Jessica? There's a reason why our first recordings don't work out. And there's a reason why we have to do a second recording. So
there's a reason why we call each other the B word and the C word, and we get through the first recording, and then the second one is supposedly gold.
Yeah. So here it is. Take 2. Golden
Take
stick.
2. Golden stick.
The golden stick.
Shoved right up our pristine lily white A's.
Oh. I guess you did. That's not what I said.
Well, same difference.
Mhm.
Now, as usual, guys, we do have a lot to get to today. But first, the housekeeping. You know, we always do this. Yes, we are a part of the Big Heads Podcast Network, a great collection of podcasts. As always, we're super excited to be there. They put up with, let me tell you, my endless parade of shitza. Like, the Shriners could drive their tiny little cars through it because, as you can glean, I am incredibly high maintenance, and they still put up with me. So God bless them. Please go.
I think it's hilarious that you call it high maintenance. I would call it something else, but okay, sure.
Yeah, because we're trying to avoid cursing. So cursing depends on what area of the country you're in. Bad language for you. Effing
for you.
bees out there.
Oh God. Okay.
We're super excited to be part of that. They're absolutely wonderful to us. Please go check them out on social media, everybody. There's a great bunch of podcasts that you can, collect, keep, love, be part of there. Now, if you love the show, please go and give us those 5 stars on iTunes or wherever it is that you listen to podcasts. And quite frankly, please review us. You can say whatever you feel like. I mean, it's not for our ego, but it does help us out on the business end. I will say that 110%. Also, go check us out on Patreon.
Yes, please do. It's $1. $1 a month. Go find us on Patreon. Seriously, you'll love it.
It's nothing. We're going to pull Maddie into that. Right now, what we're currently doing is watching historical dramas and things that put maybe historical literature into perspective. But what we're hoping to do is start throwing some little mini-sodes out there and some different interviews and a lot of fun stuff that we hope to really share with everybody.
Who we are. Like, you'll get to see, like, really, like, we're not just about, history is going to be the main kind of undertone, but it's going to show a whole other side of us. Like, on our Patreon, like, on this particular podcast, we get edited. Like, there are some things that we just cross a line where we're like, we're going to edit that out. But on our Patreon, we are not edited by any means.
At all.
At all.
Frankly.
So you get to kind of see not see. Why do I always say that? You get to hear, like, kind of how we truly are. I mean, not that we're fake on here, but there's just some things that we say out loud that we're like, we should have probably kept that in our brain and not through our mouth. But
Yeah, exactly. Something that we shouldn't, possibly share, but nonetheless we do. And that's just kind of the way it goes. So please go check out Patreon. Enjoy it. We are our full, ridiculous selves on there. Now, if you're listening to this, maybe back up and check out part 1 of our Ervil Lebaron series. Otherwise, you might be a little lost.
Oh, yeah. Because otherwise, literally pause right now, because what we're about to get into is going to explain a lot. In fact, there's going to be a part we get to that if you have not listened to part 1, you're going to be like, what the hell am I listening to?
What the hell are these crazy bees talking about?
So just pause, and go listen to part 1, and then pick right back up. We're right here, and we're back. No, we're really,
And
we're back.
we're back on track, and we're focused. But
Yes.
I mean, again, it's listener's choice. This has been the craziest bunch of stuff I've ever heard in my entire life. I don't know about you, Bethany.
Considering that the first recording was literally a blind reading, like what folks made. I mean, yes, we have a script, but it's just so that we do stay on track and we don't have a.
And see, we say script, but we don't even mean script. It's just an outline. It's an outline of facts, and we've got to put it all together in a narrative fashion because we're idiots and we want to challenge ourselves live on air.
So, and usually what happens is you send it to me, I read through it, I make my little, notations. Oh, I want to speak here. But our first recording, I was like, you know what? I was feeling very allergic to life. And I was like, F it, I'm going to do a blind reading. And you know what? I honestly don't quite remember the entire story. So I'm excited.
I don't remember any of it.
So this is going to literally be like, oh yeah. Oh, I don't remember. But okay. Okay, cool.
And guys, be aware that I write the high points and I don't remember it. It is gone as quickly as we do it. So sometimes when you ask us questions, I have to go back to show notes and be like, oh, yes, that's right. That's what is happening here. So again, it's listener's choice. Craziest bunch of shit we've ever heard. Oh, damn.
Yeah,
craziest bunch of shit we've ever heard in our whole life. And I think it's best summed up by, it comes from an FBI agent involved in the Lebaron trouble in the very early days. Now, I say that, but they're going to become again and again and again involved in this Lebaron case until it boils over into actual trouble. But from the very early days, the agents were equally as confused by the religious aspects of the murders committed by the Lambs of God as you and I will be later on in this story. Let me put it that way.
Yeah.
It's very much a cult that is in a sect of a religion, for lack of better terminology. I don't know how else to explain it, quite frankly.
Like you have Mormonism, and then it has a branch, several, like it goes down to several different kinds.
It breaks down to fundamentalism or fundamentalist Mormonism. And then within that, there are several sects and independents. And then it breaks down into all these splinter cell churches, if you will. And that is where we find the Lambs of God. That's the best we can explain it to you.
Like a friend of a friend of a friend.
Exactly. No, that's exactly it. That gets too freaking crazy at a party.
Sisters, cousins, uncles, wife. It's one of those things.
That gets too #cray at a party. Yeah, like exactly. So from the FBI agent, the minute you step into this, you're in another world. The whole case is a mess. MESS. That's the word for it. The followers change their names, refuse to talk, etc., etc. Everywhere you push, there's jelly.
I'm sorry, but you just said MESS. Let's go mess. My cheerleader mode just kicked in, like straight up, like.
Look, I'm ready. Let's go mess. Yeah, exactly. No,
mess.
You're right.
I'm already got the moves. Like I'm down. I'm ready. Like 5, 6, 7, 8, and
8. Yeah, and hit. Exactly. No, that's exactly what it is. But the sad thing is, that's exactly how he described it.
Yeah.
So that's how I felt, viewers, trying to comb through the endless pile of insane that is the Lebarons and the Lambs of God. Now, my primary sources, and I didn't spew them out in the first one because they were so circumspect and just so broad, but I've really honed in on a couple. So I've picked out the titled book Prophet of Blood, The Untold Story of Ervil Lebaron and the Lambs of God, as well as a series of articles in the Desert News of Nevada, I believe, appearing in May of 1977. I wish I could say this is all, but I've had to piece it together from everything from daughters of LeBaron and everything else. But I found these to be the most without bias, if you will.
Mhm.
And I've been doing this. How long have I been
Oh my
fucking
God.
doing
Like,
this?
maybe we should just I just want to I do want to take this moment and explain to our listeners yeah, well, we put out episodes here and there that are one episode, easy things. I mean, the research still goes into it, but it's just research that you already understand and just need to be a refresher. When we do things like this, when we do deep dives, this is something you had started. Okay, so when did I come to visit you? When
5
was it?
weeks ago.
Yeah. Okay. So 5 weeks ago, and
I
you had
started
started
this.
reading that book before I had even gotten out there. So maybe I think it was 3 weeks prior to me even coming out there.
Yeah.
So this is something that research that you had actually, and isn't this the one that you literally the moment we had recorded the first time you had scratched completely and redid it?
Yeah. Yeah,
You
absolutely
literally had
was.
texted me. You texted me. You were like, "Look, I want to record tonight. However, I just found a new source. I'm scrapping the entire thing. I'm typing it up now. I'm sending it to you. Let's do it." I'm like, "Oh fuck."
I
I'm
think I've
sorry.
done that 3 weeks in advance because I can't explain to you guys how easy it is to do the little ones, but to do the deep dives, we can't be limited. If we're going to be true to history, we can't be limited by one-off sources. We can't be limited by one book. It's just like Genghis Khan. I cited one book, but the reality is I read infinite books and infinite sources, and that's kind of where we are. I just like to cite the thing that has been most helpful.
Yeah. And that's why we do these deep dives. This is when we show our true colors as a historian, a historical podcast. Well,
Yeah.
you do the work. Hold on, I'm gonna just say this: you do the work. I just show up. I'm the blonde that just makes everybody look good.
Exactly, but darling, what would we be without that? We'd just be an angry, tiny little midget, yelling into the darkness about the things she read. What would be the good of that? Find us on Twitter at Bethany Skelton 5 and Jessica B. Manor.
For real. Okay, well, let's get back.
I will say, after all of that, I'm still not even 100 on what the hell is going on. So, because we can't overstate just how crazy this ride has been, without further ado, we pick up where we left off last week.
Yay, which was crappy. Here we go.
Yeah.
Okay.
It wasn't great. It's going to get worse. We left Ervil last. He had declared for the wrong prophet more than once. Ervil had learned no socialization skills as a child. His father had given him less than nothing in life. His untarnished brother Joel had declared himself, quote unquote, prophet, and Ervil had jumped at the chance at being second in command for the meek and mild Joe in this new church of the firstborn. Now, Ervil wasted no time jumping feet first into the principle, aka polygamy, within this particular polygamous Mormon sect.
I mean, why not, right? That's the thing. That's the cool. Everybody's doing that. That's what the cool kids are doing. So.
Well, I mean, you can't shake a stick at multiple poons, right?
Right. Bad poon, bad.
Bad poon, bad. Not into it. Lie.
Which I just want to say that I realized something when you said no socialization His father didn't give him anything, didn't pay attention, didn't teach him anything. Why does that remind me of Edward?
Oh, it should very much remind you of Edward without all of the money attached.
And if you don't know what we're talking about, listen to our deep dive series on Edward VIII.
What do we always say, Bethany? History doesn't repeat itself. It what?
It rhymes.
Yep. And we're back there again right now with Ervil Lebaron, and I can't overstate that. So Ervil struggled with his Hispanic wives the most, however.
Oh, you think?
Why could that be? Is it because they grew up Catholic and struggled with the idea of polygamy?
Oh, you think?
Maybe that had something to do with it. Now, that almost got him killed once or twice by the in-laws, I will say.
From the Hispanics that were Catholic? Who thought? Who would have thought that Daddy wouldn't have an okay reaction to his baby girl with married to a man with multiple wives? Who would have thought that would?
Who knew?
Oh God!
Still, as bad as that went, it wasn't all failure, as Ervil managed two powerful converts in Fernando Castro and Aurelio Rios, the later supplying him with 3 absolutely batshit crazy bodyguards and 2 wives later on down the road. But Ervil was at the heart of it, right? Okay, well, that's fun.
All right.
So they weren't all against
about
him.
it.
He found some Catholic converts. Exactly.
Okay.
So Ervil was at the heart of it.
It's that phrase: if you don't succeed, try again.
If at first you don't succeed, try again. And he certainly did. If there ever was a person that did, let me put it that way. And the sad thing about all that, even though he got those 2 very powerful converts and a number of powerful Spanish converts, he was at the heart of it a white supremacist piece of poo, as we will put it. When are they not in these kind of stories?
I mean, we wouldn't have a podcast if we didn't have them, so.
Yeah, so, I mean, we can't shake a stick at it, but we can, because, again, we wouldn't have a podcast if we didn't. So, he viewed the Mexican people he lived among as second-class citizens, which really pissed people off, and understandably, and endangered his life more than once, which rightly so.
Yeah.
I mean, what kind of... He lives in Mexico. What's his freaking problem?
He thinks he's invincible. I don't really know what's happening.
No, he really does. And we're going to get to later why he thinks he's pretty much a walking, talking Moses, which is going to end up being a problem. Oh, Lord. But many surviving LeBaron followers and family members later testified that Ervil really broke bad when Daniel Ben Jordan wandered onto the scene. Now, Dan, he had been with the French converts from part 1, if you'll remember them.
Yeah. I remember.
Okay. Yeah. And he'd latched onto Ervil immediately, as Dan, like Ervil, didn't easily come by friends. Imagine that. He and Ervil spent hours scheming, and these 2 went on some kind of mysterious mission to find converts in Mexico City in 1959. And this is going to be in... Is
that what they call it now?
Yeah, that's what they call it now. You and I just went to Juarez to maybe see a donkey show and do some drugs, but that's what they called it then.
I thought it was like whatever happens in Vegas stays in Vegas. Whatever happens in Mexico stays in Mexico, I guess.
I would say whatever happens in Mexico gets buried under the dirt for 1,000 years. Never again to see the light of day. But that's just me and you.
Be like, hey, have you ever been to Mexico? No. Never have.
That's my standard answer. Have you ever been to Mexico? Absolutely not. I don't know what happens there. Sounds fun. Sounds great.
Mexico I don't speak Espanol.
Mexico. I have no grip of the Spanish
You're
language
Southern.
despite growing up in Texas. I don't even know what you're talking about.
Yeah, your
What
Southern
is
accent
Mexico?
kicks out. Like, I don't know how to even speak the English language. What Mexico?
I instantly become bilingual and start speaking German when anybody like mentions Mexico. Let me put it that way. Although that may not be the language to choose in that case. Then they're gonna all think I'm like, I don't know, Hitler boys. Who knows? But
American, but not. You know what I mean?
not that North America. Exactly. That's the problem. So he and Ervil spent hours scheming. They went on this mysterious mission to Mexico. We don't know exactly what happened there, but from that point
we do.
on, no, it's very weird. From that point on, Ervil seems to have completely, for our viewers, I don't know why we say viewers, our listeners.
Hey, I said it earlier.
Lost their mind.
So.
Yeah, we already think we're on a TV show, even though we don't deserve one. So it is what it is. Although we are gunning for one. So, like, A&E, if you're bored, just saying. Yeah. Amazon, we're worthy.
You're here. Take us.
We're there.
Raise, our hands are raised. Pick us.
I promise we're decent looking and interesting. Go ahead and pick us up.
Well, we try.
We try. Most of the time. Now, we don't know what happened. He lost his mind. Now, Ervil became paranoid that the Catholic Knights of Columbus were after him, seeking out the company of the anti-Catholic Masons as kind of a counterweight to whatever he thought was going on. Now, the truth is, neither group had much influence. Oh, God.
Everybody's after me. That's LSD trip.
Okay,
not that I would know.
Is like LSD of, and we both know.
I don't know. I don't know. I'm just guessing.
What we understand of the drug and or any hallucinogens of any kind. Wink, wink.
Yeah. Wink.
The truth is, neither group held much influence in Mexico, but it didn't stop the paranoia of his being, quote unquote, on the run, which he always lived as if he was, which maybe, but I doubt it was from those two groups. I mean, maybe something happened. Hell, we don't know.
I mean, like, nobody's discrediting that something happened, but
not that, right?
Yeah.
Agreed.
Yeah.
And again, no one knows what happened in Mexico City on this trip. Either way, Ervil was forever changed. And I contend maybe he got some, hold of some of that MK Ultra LSD. Who knows? Or maybe it just now onset in him because we know the whole family was mad as hatters from part one. Do we not?
Yeah. And if it just trickles down and then you just happen to try just even one hallucinant drug, I mean, it's game over from there.
Oh, well, it very much is. If you have onset schizophrenia like the rest of the family is, I mean, it's going to be trups. But either way, Ervil was wandering around with a gun now and hiding out constantly. He added, right, exactly. Just showing up at people's houses that he knew with a gun and constantly pacing around in their basement. Which, why are you letting him in?
Okay, so wait, hold on. Random people he knew or random people he didn't know?
No, random people he knew.
Okay, and then he would go down to the basement and just pace back and forth with a gun?
Yeah, or some smaller room in the house where he thought he was safe and pace around with a gun and wait for somebody to come and get him.
Well, okay. All right, continue.
Right? Like,
I have
okay,
I have
whatever.
opinions.
Why do you want
So,
the house
okay.
gas? But it is what it is.
All
So
right,
he
cool.
added the Mormon LDS Church proper to his list of pursuers. Now, Ervil stated they had a small, like, tough guy army wandering around after him, stopping him from handing out firstborn church pamphlets. Yeah, like
What?
the Mormons militarize.
Uh,
If
okay.
anything, they're super cool and knock on your door nice as hell, and you treat them like dirt.
They're the, no, they're the Fellowship of the Sun. If you have ever seen the show True Blood.
Pretty much. He's gone full Fellowship of the Sun if you've ever seen True Blood, and I can't explain it better than that. Very well done, Bethany. Now,
Thank you. Thank you
this
very much.
guy is constantly trying to find bodyguards and killer Avengers.
What?
What do we even think that is? I love that there was so much sound.
I was like, oh wait, well, what? Repeat? Do I need to have that repeated, or did I hear you correctly?
No, killer Avengers, in his words.
I kind of dig the name, but like, I thought the Avengers are supposed to be like people that fight bad guys.
Or that Stanley made up, like
Yeah.
it would have been a better title.
Took
Sit
from
in
Ervil.
game, Killer Avengers.
Like literally all the Avengers die.
Like pretty much. But basically they were to kill people for him and his protection if necessary. So sure. Well, that attitude usually means you will eventually need to kill people.
Right.
It's eventually going to become necessary just by crazy proximity. Still, the firstborn church at Colonial Lebaron thought Ervil absolutely hung the moon until he went a-courting his friend's wife. When his friend Nephi Marston, do you love that? A-courting? Went a-courting. I thought we'd bring some Texasisms into it.
Yeah.
Why not?
Old Texan lingo.
Why not? So when his friend Nephi Marston first converted to the Church of the Firstborn, wife Anna Mae would have none of it. Now, Nephi brought Ervil back to the States with him to convert Anna Mae, which according to her testimony, she instantly fell in love with Ervil. She packed up that day and headed to Mexico with Nephi and Ervil. Which did his penis just shower awesome pheromones like everywhere?
Like maybe he has the magic penis.
Maybe he's got
maybe he's
the magi peen. I don't know.
Maybe he's like Austin Powers, and maybe not he's not that much of a looker, but maybe he's a fantastic lover in bed. I don't know.
But can you tell that from first look? Because apparently you could.
I mean, if you look up pictures of Ervil Lebaron when he was in the age that we're talking about right now, he was handsome. Him and Joel.
Yes, he was.
Him and his brother are both.
I mean, he was no Chris Hiddleston, but I would have looked twice at it. Let me put it that way.
I mean, hello.
Oh, you know how I feel about Chris Hiddleston. No man buttons a suit jacket quite like he does. Woo-hoo. Mm-hmm. So, either way, Anna Mae ended up married to Ervil, and they ended up cucking a lifelong friend.
Wait,
of Ervil's.
Wait, what did you just say?
I said they cucked him.
What is cucking?
When a lesser male, a beta male, loses to an alpha male in a fuck your wife contest, for lack of a, oh, damn it, I didn't want to say.
No, but it needed to be said because that's how I needed to understand. I get it. Okay.
Like a cuckold. So one guy thinks he's the only one boning his wife, and somebody else is getting to it. But nonetheless, Ervil Ervil took her and like married her.
Okay, so it's kind of like a wolf pack. Like, look, I'm the male, I'm the alpha, and I'm gonna fuck your wife whether you like it or
Damn,
not.
I shouldn't have turned you on to True Blood, although I have to say it really got you ready for this episode, didn't it?
It makes some serious sense. No, I'm following.
Yeah.
I'm with you.
Yeah.
I can't believe how great my mind is working right now.
It is greased on all cylinders despite the alcohol that we have down. So now
The
this
alcohol
caused
is
a
what
very
so. This is why we drink with podcasts.
we can't do it otherwise. We try to do it sober,
beer
and
is
it's just not as entertaining.
Yeah. Okay.
Beer is what makes the wheels of this podcast chug-a-lug-a-lug. So,
Literally.
Cux's lifelong friend, which naturally causes the first rift between Joel Lebaron and Ervil Lebaron. Now, Anime would end up being one of Ervil's most ardent and insane supporters later on. Surprise, surprise.
Well, I mean, she said that it was like first.
She was hypnotized by the peen.
The pains. The golden pain.
The golden pain.
Mm-hmm.
So Ervil just kept on marrying wives, which everyone in a polygamous society was ultimately, they were after women, and we're going to get to that. But more than that, Ervil was in the hot seat further and further for being eternally lazy. Remember, Joel was the worker. Ervil thought his precious brain was too good for work. And in a way, that's a pretty clever power play. He set himself up as a king, if you will, right? Like the king never does the work.
No, he always has other people do his dirty work for him.
Exactly. So he never did any work, but his unpopularity with some was attributable to just more than the fatal sin of sloth, if you will. Ervil was always eating everyone's food where it was pretty scarce in a poor colony like Colonial Lebaron. He'd just show up at dinner tables and eat all the best portions of all the food. It was terrible.
Jessica.
Terrible. What?
I just the way you're describing it, and again, I know you've turned me to True Blood and Game of Thrones. You're talking about King Baratheon right now.
Yeah. He just pretty much showed up and Robert Baratheon his way through shit.
He had sex with a bunch of women, fathered a bunch of children he never had to worry about. He was lazy. He had a wine pour, like, you know what I mean? Like, he had somebody that constantly kept his wine glass full. Like, hello, like
But think of it this way: it was Robert at the Trident, not Robert 20 years later, if you will.
Yeah. No, yeah, that's
yeah. So not only that, but he was a terrible conversationalist and was always preaching at people using scripture to justify his crazy stances, reactions, and beliefs. Again, nothing out of the ordinary of what we see today.
Yeah.
I mean, he might as well be a TV televangelist. Nonetheless, Ervil was recruiting crazy at an alarming rate, most especially the Bud Shanoff clan, which provided two of his ever-growing harems of wives, as well as bodyguards, that he was quickly collecting from 60 to 65. So some as young as 14, some of these wives. Here we go. Yep. We're getting into the disgusting statutory rapes that seem to go hand in hand with compound polygamists and cult leaders in general, if you will.
You said 14.
14. She was 13 when she was engaged, 14 when she was married.
And then probably to have kids.
And not the first or the last. She had 2 kids by him, actually.
He's a freaking pimp with all the benefits.
A disgusting one. And then there were other wives that he simply used as sugar mamas to provide him money and whatever else that Ervil felt like he
What?
needed. Yeah.
Wow.
And people were lining up to do it because, again, this is a young looking Ervil that we're talking about, not an arrested Ervil, if you will.
There's a huge, like, now or then and now pictures.
Yeah, this is handsome Ervil.
Yeah. Wow.
So Ervil understood. In a polygamous society, controlling the flow of women conferred power. And Ervil put himself in charge of marriages in the church. Joel never confronted him about it, nor did anybody else, but most thought this was kind of gross. In reality, you wanted some more wives, though, no matter what you thought, and you had to go to Ervil, his own daughters being some of the biggest prizes, because he had a ton of wives and thus a ton of daughters.
Oh my God.
Yeah, so sit with that for a minute. If you haven't
So
been discussed it until now.
Every time one of his wives gave birth to a baby girl, it was like watching money being born.
Pretty much.
Power being born.
No matter how spinstery, no matter how unattractive to him, it was all money. That's what he was making. Churning out girls. Yeah. He put himself in charge of trading women for favors and thus gaining all the power. He set up a secret society of just women in the church, controlling their actions, their thinking, and attempting to even militarize them. Now, the group was called the United Women of Zion, and Ervil made his first forays into serious murder talk in these very meetings, where he was the only male present and forbid women telling, most especially their husbands, what was discussed. He would say things like killing would eventually be necessary to protect him and the church.
If they talked or just in general?
If they talked to anybody else other than women about what happened, he would pay like personal visits, get in the middle of their shit, make life very, very difficult for them.
Please tell me that at some point during this deep dive, we do find out what was talked about in those meetings.
I will say we do know, but mostly it was like about how every tool could be used for killing, how women were to raise their daughters to be subjects of polygamy, basically saying if you grew it up early in the church, it was much easier to convert women to the idea. Just a bunch of really sick shit, like, for lack of a better term.
Wow.
But nobody else knew what was really said. So, like, therefore, Joel really did nothing to stop him. Ervil, more than Joel, ended up being the rallying point for all the zealots in the community. I mean, Joel made suggestions, whereas Ervil made decisions.
Now, yeah, like just whatever he didn't think, he just did.
You know, Joel was very much in favor of free agency, which is the way it should be in a religion, but Ervil knew better. If you're going to make a faithful, all-following army, what you need to do. So Ervil also did his best to limit all outside influence on the firstborn. And as a result, they tended to think that Ervil was really, really clever.
Well, he kind of is.
He's doing the things he said weren't. He was very manipulative, but he wasn't necessarily clever. Like a serial killer.
No, but you know what I mean? Like, he is, even though the things he was saying was outrageous, he was gathering a following. Even though everybody knew, yeah, Joel might be the person, but I follow Ervil. Like, and he has people that are like, no, I'm with him. Like,
Boy,
Even
had
though,
an army. It was clever. I don't doubt
yeah,
it was clever, but his preachings weren't prophetic.
okay.
And
No, I would
so,
agree with you there, but
yeah, if that makes sense. So, like, these people, the best I can put it, they were like catching episodes of MASH or anything. Let's put it that way. Like, the only thing they were catching were the teachings of Ervil Lebaron. So that was
yeah.
their whole world. And in a way, you're correct. That is very clever. He also encouraged everyone to spy on one another.
Oh my
Um,
God.
I mean, with all of that, we really begin to see some, like,
That's some bullshit right there.
yeah,
Like, that sounds
exactly
like,
right.
listen to me, but trust no one else. You know what I mean? And then,
That's
yeah.
quintessential cult shit. You're exactly right. That's
Ugh,
where
I
it
just got,
begins. That's
I'm
exactly what
outside,
it
like
is.
we discussed, I'm outside in 100-degree weather and I just shivered. Like, that's some intense stuff right there.
Right? And
Like,
we're feeling some intense stuff right now.
yeah.
And that is
If I don't make it,
intense. So
if I don't make a joke soon, I might start crying. So let's keep going. I have
let's
a
keep
feeling I'm gonna
going.
joke.
Yeah, because we're burning up for you guys, just for you guys. So he also encouraged everyone one to spy, and then he also used some tried and tested, like, full-blown cult leader tactics, from
Okay.
tattling on each other to no
Mhm.
outside influences. um
Mm.
and furthermore, he also began having revelations for individuals, not the church itself, quote unquote revelations, which you're going to see in part one, where they have revelations for the church, supposedly from God, dreams or visions that are about everything, right?
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
here's the thing, he was such an acute student of human nature, he knew almost how to crack every egg. So if to everyone else what he might be saying seemed crazy, to the person he was targeting, it
It
was
felt
very
right,
specific.
and
Exactly.
it felt like, oh my God, you know me. How do you know me? I know. How would you
It
know? Like,
must be divine intervention.
yeah.
Exactly. So
And yeah, so he would be able to connect to people individually, which gave him an upper hand. And
exactly,
and what's
Bethany.
what kind of person is that called? What's the terminology for that again?
A
Psychopath?
sociopath.
A sociopath. Okay, see, I was close.
I believe sociopath or psychopath will work
It's
either way.
either way, or either whatever, either.
I don't know exactly where to draw the line, and I don't know that sociopath is a clinical term that's even used anymore. But back in the day, it was, and that is
Yes,
what I would call a textbook sociopath. So
agreed.
few
Hmm.
people opposed Ervil. Joel was always so chill, and that was kind of his undoing. Follower Earl Jensen tried to prod Joel into some action to no avail. Joel
Hmm.
believed in free agency, never taking a hard line with anyone. Furthermore, since its inception, the church had been in massive, serious debt. And this undercut, in a way, the overly generous Joel, as
Mm,
it were.
okay.
So, of course, that wasn't helped by the fact that Ervil was always skimming off the top. Ervil
Oh,
was quite the con man, always. He was constantly defrauding people that weren't members of the church, more than the church members, if possible, claiming that as non believers they were nothing more than cattle. Let's let that sink in for a second.
yeah.
Because everybody that was a non-believer, he'd go to him with some land development deal, claim that he needs $3,000 under a false name to invest, and then just disappear with it. He'd do it constantly.
Yeah. Yeah,
So
not suspicious at all.
no, not at all.
Not
So
at all.
no. So Ervil also had a taste for, imagine
Uh,
this, high living, fancy clothes and
fancy, yeah,
cars.
fancy.
Of course. Whereas Joel and
Diamonds
the
and golden, batons and
like signet rings, like he was a mob boss and bullshit. Exactly.
yeah.
Whereas Joel and the other LeBarons put on no airs.
Ah,
Because there were other LeBaron brothers that helped to run the church. So Ervil would steal money from anyone and everyone. So while conning everyone from unsuspecting investors, old ladies, new wives, and his own mother, he got really into the Old Testament.
oh God. Oh God. Okay.
If it gets worse, it gets worse.
Now we just mentioned the Old Testament. We are in for a treat and a ride, ladies and gents. Holy crap. There's a reason why there's a New Testament, but okay, sure. Here we go. People that still want to live in old. There's a reason why it's called old. Not the first, not the do this and, you know what I mean? There's not a this and.
Exactly. But not only that, like the Jewish peoples don't prescribe to the civil law. So why do you get to, sir?
Yeah.
This was Ervil first started spouting crazy like Moses civil law. He got really into it. So 10 Commandments stuff, which it's fine on its own until you start factoring in biblical punishments, which was break a commandment, just be put to death. Yeah, so let that sink in. Moses was in charge of handing down that. Yeah, exactly. So Moses was in charge of handing down that sentence, and for whatever invisible power mantle reason, Ervil now felt it was his job. So everyone got real jazzed about it for some reason, and Joel was sort of forced into jumping on this level of crazy. But once Joel threw in religiously, I mean, it was ultimately a biblical chance for Ervil to jump on the paranoia to murder town train he'd always been trying to board, if that makes sense. Now he had this biblical reason to be a murdering piece of poo.
Yeah, exactly. Like, sure, that's perfect. That's perfect. That's a perfect reason to do that. Sounds like a great idea.
Right? Oh, fabulous. So this was when Ervil really ramps up the written threats, the LDS and the FDLS or FLDS prominent members.
Yeah. You got to get that
so
right.
So we're saying Latter-day Saints and fundamentalist Latter-day Saints, prominent members.
Yeah, there's two different. Yeah.
Again, please go see part 1. We tried to get through it all. So Joel continued to try and fit all of this into the firstborn doctrine. Now, Joel's vision was for a future government of the world that didn't subscribe to necessarily one religion, Christian, Catholic, Mormon, but just they governed on the basis of Moses' civil law.
Okay, wait, real quick. I'm not sure if I know what Moses is.
The 10 Commandments.
Oh, okay. Oh, okay. Okay, wait. All right. Cool. Sure. Thou shalt not lie, thou shalt not steal, thou shalt not lie with another man's wife. But sure, okay.
Sure.
Wait.
Let's see how that works out for you, sir. So, like God or King or the one and only Messiah prophet and whatever is what they were trying to take over the government as eventually. Now, the Barons came under the microscope of the FBI for the first time not too long after Ervil's civil law revelations. Namely because the boys were all U.S. citizens, some like Ervil dual citizens in U.S. and Mexico, but they were still U.S. citizens. And Uncle Sam did not take kindly to them essentially dodging the World War draft back in the day.
That's a big no-no.
I'm going to go ahead and call him right now pussies. based on the fact that the greatest generation was like signing up at 15 and 16 to go be in that war. So they can suck a
Yeah.
dick.
And not just signing up, but to be on the front line. So
Yeah, because whatever and wherever, because like Nazis were evil shits. What a just war if there ever was one to die for. Like, I'm just saying.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm just saying, pre-Memorial Day, if anybody gets a round of applause, it's those guys, because they deserve it. Because you know what?
Yes.
A juster war I can't think of. Because Nazis deserve to eat shit and die. And I'm glad they did. And if anybody's got a problem with that, or is a Holocaust denier, I hope you rot in hell.
Amen.
Can we just say that together? You rot in hell, you pieces of shit.
Forever and ever.
Always. Great American heroes. So these pieces of shit had, of course, dodged it on religious reasons, which you still could have gone and been a medic. You could have done a lot of things that a lot of people that were like conscientious objectors still went and contributed to the war. So they're pieces of shit.
Agreed.
Like you could have done something. But
you could have been a secretary. You could have just typed, or
you could have typed. You could have put together ships. You could have been there with Rosie the Riveter. Nobody said you had to fight if you were a conscientious objector, but you could have fucking contributed to the war effort. Because if you don't think that Nazis were evil pieces of shit, and if you don't believe in a death penalty, fine. But there was never a greater case for death penalty in all of human history.
Yes. Hear, hear.
Than Nazis.
Yes.
Every one of them that died, I laugh at. And if you've got a problem with that, come at me, bro, because I'm ready for it. They died, I laughed. And if you don't like it, suck a dick. Let me put it that way.
A big fat one.
A big fat one. Because you don't deserve anything. Sorry, you don't. But furthermore, and more interestingly, this group registered once again on the FBI's radar following the Kennedy assassination.
Huh.
Which is just a little fun tidbit of history. While they were trying to get everybody together, a list of suspects before they knew what happened. Now, it's well known in the Salt Lake FBI office at this time that this group had been spouting off about assassinating not only the head of the Mormon Church, but also all top government officials, including the President of the United States. Thus, the Kennedy connection.
Okay.
Yeah. Now, it was very quickly dismissed, but in just 15 years, the FBI would be investigating the Lebarons in earnest.
Okay.
Pretty foreshadowing. Which, small wonder, really, as Ervil Lebaron was quickly building his own weird private militia.
Yeah, he's got I don't know how he's doing it, but for some reason he's got like people that are like, yes, master, kill all other races. Yes, master. It's weird. I love you, master. You can have sex with whoever you want, but not me. I will produce your children and raise them to be prepared to also be married to many other people.
Isn't it the way it always goes?
It's so crazy to me.
It is. The psychology of it. I just.
It's great,
I have no authority to speak about the psychology of such things. Let's just say it's crazy and move on. But to be fair, there was something about Ervil. He managed to convert a man named Siegfried Vidmar, who ultimately sided with Joel. It should be said, Joel was a selling point, but Ervil Joel's the one that converted him to the church. Now,
Okay.
Vidmar was a German Mormon at the time of the rise to Nazi power who opposed Hitler and being drafted into the SS to the point he ended up in a concentration camp. Now,
Whoa.
by the transitive property, that means that Ervil was more charismatic and convincing than Hitler and Himmler. So just think about that.
Holy balls on toast. Like, that's
They
insane.
got a whole country to go balls to the wall. And they couldn't get this guy, but Ervil somehow was like, yeah, sign me the F up, man. I'm like Johnny on the spot on board.
Do you think it was easier for Ervil to convert men than it was for women?
No, I think he was better than with women, honestly.
Huh.
And that's the weird part.
Weird. That is weird.
Because any woman he came across to make his wife was like instantly, I'm on board.
Like, maybe he was a wizard.
Maybe he was. Maybe he got his Hogwarts letter before the rest of us.
Confounded
I
all
can't be sure.
to know if we're wizards or not. Like, he's the reason why we haven't got our Hogwarts letters yet.
He may be, and I blame him for that too. So, I mean, weirdly enough, ultimately, the civil law business would really drive the hard wedge, as it were, between Ervil and Joe. Ervil was always pushing and Joel was always deferring. And it began with the women brokering, misappropriation of church funds, all the con jobs. I mean, but it really started to come to a head over a community the firstborn founded called Los Molinos. Now, Joel wanted a place for the poor to settle, but Ervil saw all these cheaply acquired beachfront properties to be developed.
The way to, like, make a lot of money, right?
Exactly. Into some weird yacht club bullshit. Like, exactly. Okay. So he didn't give a shit about the poor. He wanted the money.
Again, another here's your sign, but okay, here we go.
It was a way to become millionaires, which was Ervil's dream. Like, basically. Yeah, naturally.
I mean, it's kind of all of ours, in a way.
Yeah, I mean, like, it's all ours in a way, but we
property with millions of dollars. I mean,
I would like to think we're good enough people not to undercut a billion fucking poor people to get what we wanted.
Yeah, here, I'm going to work my ass off to get there, not to scam other people. But yeah,
exactly. But that wasn't Ervil's way.
No, of course not.
Of course not. So Ervil tried to usurp Joel for control of Los Molinos, and Joel finally saw his brother was paranoid, crazed, and out of control.
Took you long enough.
Ervil, and it didn't stop there. Ervil's constant companion, Dan Jordan, was running around at different pulpits preaching on Ervil's behalf and saying things like, we will become rulers. We will do in Mexico what Hitler did, only for the good. I think that's exactly what Hitler said.
But I don't know how you can make anything what Hitler did for the good, but okay.
Especially in late 60s, early 70s. This is the late 60s, early 70s. Like, we've had time to weigh in on Hitler, yo. Like, no.
We don't need to do a podcast session episode about Hitler. We already know the story of Hitler. We already know.
Like, what's her name that was like, oh, yeah, Hitler's vision wasn't great, but he made the trains run on time. Are you kidding me? Get out. Get out of my face. You did not just say that.
Oh, my God. It's like taking all the bad things and finding, well, they paved the roads in my town. Okay, but he killed 300 million people.
Okay, but like
Just
literally 15 million people died doing that. So
so you're
you know
welcome.
what?
Like,
All roads
congratulations.
lead to Rome, but ask all colonies of the world ever how they felt about her. You know? Like,
one good deed does not cover up a ginormous one.
here we go. We're going to be topical to something we've covered. Genghis Khan made the modern world. That's great. But ask all the Islamic empires and then the future generations conquered by Genghis Khan's descendants how they feel about that. They're still talking about it in 2014 and freaking recession speeches by Saddam Hussein, which don't even get me started. Like,
podcast.
how good was it?
Yeah.
Jesus. So finally, after years of BS, Joel convened a meeting to remove Ervil as president and replace him with Ervil Lebaron, John Stevens, one of the remaining French missionaries to the group, and Siegfried Widmar, who, again, it can be said, came down on the side of Joel. Now, Ervil pretended to be cool about the news, and he was removed and replaced nonetheless. Ervil wasted no time, however, in plotting Joel's murder, asking anyone and everyone he thought may be sympathetic to him to kill Joel.
Oh, God.
Yeah, so naturally.
And technically, people liked Ervil, so.
Yeah, so we're running into problems already. Naturally, it was the time of his removal and excommunication that Ervil got a revelation from God of his own. Of course.
God. Oh my God, I just almost snorted my. You said a revelation. I'm like, here we go.
Yeah, that's why I've set my drink down. Because you just can't in this freaking story. You can't. So, on May 20th, 1971, the Church of the Lamb of God was born, and Ervil kept up his money-making scams. Of course, the new church was under the Ervil run, civil law, a.k.a. Moses law, a.k.a. the Ten Commandments, and if you didn't follow them, death.
Okay. Yeah. All right. I'm with you.
All right. So, threats against Joel amped up as Ervil began writing hate pamphlets as Ervil tried to scare the firstborn into believing he was the one with the invisible power mantle from part one.
Here it is.
Not Joel.
Oh, God, here's the
and
word.
I just want it to be noted, this is where I wanted to start this story, and it made no damn sense if I didn't begin at the beginning.
Invisible, and the way you explained how the invisible power mantle even became.
How else do you explain it?
You have to explain it within the. How long did it take us to talk about through that? Was it
2
hour and a half?
2 fucking hours.
I was like, okay, wait, hold on. So
wait, back that up for me. No. That's all it was. Wait a minute. Okay. Back that up. So and then, we're not going to dwell on it. Just know you can find all you want about invisible Joseph Smith power mantles in part one.
Yeah, and you know what? Like you said in the very beginning, listener's choice. But I'm going to tell you right now, at this point in the podcast, if it was just me listening, I would be like, what the hell are these women talking about?
I was going to say these crazy bitches talking about.
I mean, this
makes no sense.
No. Okay.
But guess who's back? Back again. The invisible power mantle.
I mean, it's not. I hope it makes a reoccurring visit throughout this series.
It never stops. Let me put it that way. There was a reason I covered it, and it makes no sense, but it has to be covered. So then comes August 20th of 1973 or 72. So three of Ervil's craziest zealots, Dan Jordan and the Rios brothers, arrived in Los Molinos looking for Joe Verlin and Alma LeBaron. Lucky as hell for Verlin and Alma, they had moved on.
Because those are his siblings, right? Those are his siblings. Okay, and
that's right. He was gunning for all of his brothers with any kind of power within the church.
Okay, yeah, okay, good for them. They were the smart ones. They got out.
They were, but Joel wasn't. So Joel had been waiting.
Remember, he said chill. Like, he was chill, relaxed. Like, he wasn't gonna be like, he's my brother. Like,
I'm not entirely sure he ever thought Ervil would actually do it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, but you really aren't gonna think that. Well, you just excommunicated and removed your own brother from power.
Your psychotic brother.
Yeah.
But nonetheless, I don't know that Joel ever really thought he would do it. Nonetheless, Joel had been waiting to have his car fixed locally, and when he showed to check on it, there was no one around. So all of Joel's family, minus Joel and his 14-year-old son, went to try and find the man in charge of repairs. Joel and Ivan found one of the Rios brothers inside, and that Rios brother was able to coax Joel inside to use the indoor bathroom and discuss doctrine, which, what the fuck? Is this the time? I mean,
there's a time and place to discuss a doctrine.
This is clearly a mob hit. Like, maybe go try to find the keys with the rest of your family. More or less go inside to discuss doctrine. Nonetheless, Dan Jordan then showed up, went inside, and Ivan heard a fight. Ivan then heard a shout of, "Kill him!"
Oh.
And Joel was shot through the throat and then through the head via the brain, following some sort of struggle. Ervil was finally, he'd finally done it.
Yeah, he so it wasn't technically, but technically Ervil didn't kill his brother. It was,
he'd ordered it, which is going to be very, very important in trying to prove it. So this left Verlin in charge. Yeah, wait, exactly.
Oh, Ivan was a kid, right? Who done it? Who done it?
I mean, we know it was Dan and Rios' brother because Ivan was able to positively identify them. But there's going to be no tie between those two and Ervil having said done it, right? If they're on the run. Which gets us to the next part of our story.
Okay, no, I just wanted to I was confused and I wanted to make sure I knew where we were. Okay, I'm good. I'm good.
You're here.
I'm here. I'm following. Yes.
So Verlin is essentially left in charge of the firstborn church, most of whom were in grief for the death of the prophet. Those suspected in the conspiracy to murder, including Ervil, went to living off the grid and on the run. Now, this is when Ervil and his crazy and paranoia just tipped to full-scale insanity.
Oh, God, here we go.
So Ervil's never going to come back after this. Now, Ervil was planning to crush the fundamentalists, the LDS church, and eventually take over the world. That's how crazy we got.
All right, here we go. Cool.
Yeah, exactly. So we're there now.
Okay, we're going deeper. Here we go. Deeper and deeper and deeper into crazy.
Deeper into crazy town.
Yeah.
We're there now. So Verlin and some prominent firstborn who had helped to throw Ervil out of Colonial Lebaron and Los Molinos, which Ervil still viewed as his alone, obviously fled to Nicaragua, where they were making a new colony. Now, the actual members of Ervil's church were off the grid, but Ervil turned himself in to the Mexican authorities.
Okay. Whoa.
So he turned himself in despite everybody that had done the murdering being on the run, because he knew he couldn't lead a church on the run. Now, he spent months in jail awaiting trial and the trial itself. And he was initially convicted of Joel's murder, but the Mexican Supreme Court overturned the decision, as the two who actually committed the crime were not present to be questioned. They were in hiding, remember?
Yeah.
As to whether or not Ervil had actually ordered the hit, which, I mean, that's actually pretty fair for a Mexican court. I mean, despite all the threats and everything else, like, unless they're there to question and say, Ervil told us, there's no connection. So despite the acquittal, this seemed to be the final, like, crazy nail in the Ervil crazy coffin, as 14 months in a Mexican prison made him an absolute madman.
Oh, wow. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I can't even fathom, but I mean, I can. Like, does that make sense?
No, none of us can. Yeah. Especially a 70s Mexican prison.
Oh, yeah. Imagine. 70s, yeah.
Yeah, so 1974 saw the release of Ervil, free as a bird, crazy as a loon. He began planning to commit murder without any evidence against all members that stood in front of him, which is why he turned himself in. I mean, essentially, he knew that he could eventually beat the charges.
Right.
But in a way, he wanted to be better at murder in the future, if that makes sense.
So let's get...
Yay.
Yeah, it's like, okay, listen. I did kill somebody, but I want to figure out how I can kill more people better. So you know what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn myself in, and I'm going to go to, a little over a year in the Mexican prison and learn how to be a true gangster. Like,
that's exactly right. So he started teaching his members to load guns with gloves on, so there were no fingerprints on bullets, nothing that could be traced back to him or them. Like, and remember, we're living under, like, Moses's civil law, so, like, murder is okay in a religious sense, as weird as that may sound.
Makes sense.
I wish it didn't, but it really does. So, instead of straightening up and flying right, essentially, Ervil was ready to really begin his killing spree in earnest. Now, his doctrine was to kill anyone not living under Ervil, the new Moses, and his civil law, aka the Ten Commandments. Plain and simple.
Yeah.
And so Ervil and the Lambs of God set their sights on the Los Molinos colony.
Which is
Christmas.
Which I'm sorry to interrupt, but that's the colony that initially kicked him out, right?
That's the whole church did, but this is the colony where he and Joel really sat fighting over. This is the one that had the beachfront property and everything that he planned to turn into a moneymaker.
Okay. Yeah, okay, I'm with you.
Which Joel saw as an ejido, which could be drafted under Mexican law to always be farmed, to protect the poor, etc., etc.
Yeah, okay, I'm with you.
Yeah. Okay, so cut to Christmas. Okay. Yes, Bethany, Christmas.
Well, of course, it has to be Christmas.
Always, why not? Of 1974, with Verlin being their primary target, and he's not even present, bear in mind. So Ervil explained that he planned to burn down the town that he, Ervil, rightfully owned the town and buildings. And he didn't want anyone using the structures anymore without his permission, because he felt on Joel's death it was his, and that so was the firstborn church. And they resisted, forming under Ervil Lebaron. Yeah. So a hit squad of the Lands of God in the middle of the night descended on the town with guns and fire bombs. They burnt and shot their way through Los Molinos, where Verlin, BT Dubs, wasn't even present. The attack lasted, they didn't even do recon, bitches. Mm-hmm. So the attack lasted approximately 20 minutes, leaving 2 dead and 13 injured. It was national news in the U.S. and Mexico. Even Newsweek picked up the story. And with that, Ervil Lebaron, the murderous cult leader, was born. And that ends part 2 of our story.
No! Oh my God, it was just getting good. Honestly, he sounded like Daenerys Targaryen. Like, I'm gonna go
burn King's Landing, bitch.
Yeah, like this is rightfully mine. And if you won't leave and you wanna hide behind all these people, and these people are gonna think that that's okay. Well, guess what? I don't need these people. I don't need you. I don't need this whole thing. I'm gonna burn it down. That's exactly what she fucking did. That's exactly what he did.
Breaking the psycho wheel, man. Breaking the psycho wheel. That's always the way it goes. And there we will be back next week with part 3 of Ervil Lebaron and the Lambs of God.
Okay, so where are we at with body count? We're at 3, technically, right? Or what, did one die? One died last episode.
1, 2, 3. Yeah, and 3's where the insanity is really going to start kicking off, yo.
Okay.
So, yada yada. We'll get into it next week. You got anything from Counterculture?
I mean, Microsoft, please. I mean, I'm glad that we don't have to use our headsets anymore. We're just having a phone call right now.
Yeah, so I don't know whether to hate it or love it. We'll see if they can edit this episode.
Yeah, it was a pain in the ass, but I mean, the connection was crystal clear without our big cans. We don't have the cans on our head. We don't have microphones.
What a freaking, like, I mean, yeah, we're outside in hot weather, but it's better than having cans on your head for an hour and a half, yo.
Actually, the dog started barking, so I had to come in, and I've been in for the last, 30 minutes, and...
Oh, see, I didn't hear the breakup.
Did you hear the dogs ever? I had to kind of mute myself.
I never heard the dogs. Did you hear the cicadas?
Nope. Oh. I didn't. I know I muted myself here and there, though, because I was like, damn, that's loud.
Well, good for us. I'm going to do my normal plug just really, really quick. Yeah. Please go check out at Care Rescue Texas.
Yeah,
and carerescuetexas.com. That's always going to be our plug, guys. We don't have time for anything else. We apologize. But please go check them out. Have you started following them on social media and seeing what it is they save and the work they do?
Yeah, of course I do.
Oh, yeah. Awesome. Everything from house cats to like full grown bloody tigers, man, that are awesome, and just big cat. I love them. I love them so much. I'm obsessed. I feel like if we'd have known that they existed in Fort Worth, you and I would have been there every other weekend when we lived in Texas.
Yeah, agreed. I actually want to do a shout out. Like, since I think this episode, it's going to either air. I don't know when it's going to air because we ended up having to redo it before.
We really fucked everybody, and we apologize.
So if it gets aired on Monday or even Tuesday or whatever, happy Memorial Day to all those that took the time to defend our country.
Agreed.
I can't do it. I don't have any desire to do it. I don't care if you're a man, woman, want to be a man, woman. I don't give two shits. If you want to protect my ass from crazy people, then
we love you.
Yeah.
We will do anything for you. Please send us shout outs on the show. We will do it. Like, we're the biggest poons alive. Thank you for defending everything and anything about us. I'm going to go inside and watch Band of Brothers on a loop and cry my ass off. I'm not going to lie. So that's where we're at.
So we appreciate you, and we love you. You can find me on Twitter at Bethany Skelton 5, the number 5, and on Instagram Bethany RN24. And
are you done?
Yeah, and I was gonna say and Jessica is JB Manor on Twitter and Instagram.
Yeah, easy. Then go find the podcast at Body Count Pod on Twitter and Instagram. I assume we're on Facebook. We don't ever check it. Find us on the other 2 places. And then also the biggest amount of love and shout out to at Big Heads Media on Twitter and bigheadsmedia.com. They are our network. And also go see Massive Late Fee on Twitter because they edit and put up with all of the bullshit that exists here.
I said shenanigans, okay?
Shenanigans. Sorry. I think this is one of the cleaner episodes we've ever done, and I'm actually quite proud for a foray into it.
Exactly.
So please go check all of them out and some love. Go give everybody some love. We love everybody, and we will see you guys next week.
Where do you find? Wait, where do you?
Baron.
Where do you find our Patreon? Where do we don't ever plug?
Oh my goodness! www.patreon.com/bodycountpod. The same place you find all of us, whether it's on Patreon, Twitter, Instagram. You can always find us at Body Count Pod, and then also go check out our website. If you don't have, let's say, anywhere that you listen to websites, you can, or listen to podcasts, you can go listen directly at our website at www.bodycounthistorypod.com. And it is so easy to use, guys, and we cannot say again a thank you and a half to at Big Heads Media. Like, they're amazing. Amazing. Go check them out. Give us some love. We love all of you. Really quickly, historians, Twitter historians, we are looking for, from you guys personally, your dissertations, your books. What did you do your work on? We want to start sourcing that. We don't want to just choose out of our big brain and choose like historians that have been published or talked about or whatever a lot. We want to start using you guys as our sources. So come at us, bro. We're here for it.
Yeah. As long as it's not like history fiction.
Thank you, Bethany.
Like
I appreciate that you guys do a lot of research and work on it. I'm not interested in history. It's awesome. I mean, I will read the shit out of all your Outlander-esque novels, but I am not interested in using your work for this podcast. I just can't, and I apologize.
It's not interested, but more of like it doesn't fit with the research that we use for this podcast. There, I reworded it.
No, exactly. I want better historians than myself to do the work for me, if you will. So we love you guys, and we will see you next week.
Yeah, part 3. Part 3. Dr. Evil.
Dr. Evil. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Hey, I'm Zach.
And I'm Kevin.
And we're the hosts of the Rinkside Podcast.
We were annoyed by the lack of hockey coverage on local sports radio and decided that we were stupid enough to try and provide some ourselves.
We have what we call the Rinkside Guarantee. We guarantee that the podcast you're currently listening to is better than ours. We are literally just two halves of one whole idiot trying to fumble through covering the Detroit Red Wings, the National Hockey League, and hockey in general.
Check us out on Facebook and Twitter at Ringside Pod and subscribe to us on all your favorite podcast providers.
Every time you listen to our podcast, it brings us one step closer to our ultimate business goal of purchasing the Arizona Coyotes and then moving them to Detroit. What? Now, back to your regularly scheduled programming, or just another commercial. We aren't the ones who make those choices.